Oh shit. Give me a second.
I can't imagine charging all of these. I'm actually excited to see how you conduct this.
I've actually never been in one.
Yeah.
Yeah, shall we do it? All of us are in frame, right? Hey everyone, what is up? I am Salman and welcome to Salman Needs a Job. Here I am with three very interesting people that I just met inside Solana Hacker House. They just gave out a demo of a product that turns your .eth and .sol domains into a website. So it is a website builder which they will talk about in detail how they did that and what they're working on around that. In addition, they are also creators of or part of Bangalore Degen Club. So we'll discuss some of that, and so they also plan to start a podcast. They are also thinking about a podcast. I thought I'll just get a discussion started here. So let's start with your names.
Right, I'm Loki.
I'm Praneeth.
I'm Prajwal.
So what are you guys into? Like, how did this whole crypto thing start? Like, how did you get involved in Web3? Anyone who wants to go? Do you guys work together or what?
So I know him from school. We know him from like college, his college, and generally we've been in the Web2 space long enough, and we felt like Web3 was the next avenue where we could like utilize our efforts, and kind of gravitated towards Web3.
Were you guys working together as well?
So we've been working with the whole like WAGMI mindset for a while, right? Like even pre Web3, we were very enthusiastic about building businesses with the whole startup culture in Bangalore and everything, and that's kind of what drew us together. We were trying to find product opportunities, network, do business, that kind of thing. And from Web2, we see how Web3 is actually building like a nice ecosystem in India, much larger than in many other geographies, and we want to be there first. So that's us trying to put as much of our time as possible into building things in the space.
Yeah, very nice. Can you describe that WAGMI mindset? People just like to say WAGMI. What is that mindset?
For example, today, or rather in the past month, Ethereum and Sol are like, they've lost maybe half of their market value. Okay, and a big reason why people paid attention to crypto in the first place was because they saw people making 5x gains, 10x gains, and in times like this, right, when people who saw some gains or people who got in recently are now at an utter loss. There's like Luna right now, for example, where people have lost their livelihoods, they've lost like their entire life savings. But at the end of the day, WAGMI is all about knowing that the technology that we're building and the mindset of crypto and replacing Web2 is actually not about the short-term financial gain and speculation, but actually about building the technologies that we're going to use 10 years from now, right? It's kind of like going from Web 1 to Web 2, where we started with Facebook, where people weren't into it initially and it slowly picked up. This is something that's going to pick up over time. We're not sure how, but at the end of the day, the technology is what's going to drive new social change.
I love it.
Another thing that I found, especially like yesterday, this is like completely different from like how I found like Web2 does it. There were like two companies. One of them was a metaverse and the other one was a NFT creator. And what happened was they both like met each other organically, and they realized that, hey, you know what, we can like integrate both our services together and we'll be like much more valuable to the community if we like partner together. And that like is truly WAGMI according to me.
Very true. What I also know for a fact, like I'm talking to you about DAOs, right? For example, like how business development happens inside DAO is very different from how it happens inside any other. It's literally like collaboration. People can come in, drop in a proposal, and the person that is coming in from another DAO or another Web3 product, they function as though they are working inside this new ecosystem. So the whole collaborative nature of it is kind of adds to this mindset as well.
So sort of how we see our contribution to Web3 is essentially, if you look at like how DeFi is sort of evolved over the last 2-3 years, taking assets like on chain and like putting a value to it or trading them has been sort of it's evolving. It's almost like it's saturated compared to like the utility aspect of Web3. So if most non-tech people, when they think about crypto, they essentially like want to go on like a centralized exchange. If they're in India, it's like CoinDCX or ZepPay or like one of those exchanges. They want to buy something and hopefully sell it for something higher. And since like we're in a bear market, it's essentially, I think it's good because it sort of cleans the hype. So people who are in it for the long term, I think, will sort of like actually build something that's actually important to the ecosystem. And when people talk about decentralized web, it's sort of important to build utility and like infrastructure to actually realize that, like, you know, that dream, in the sense like, so the inspiration or like the objective of Dragged is essentially to put forth like a product which will actually be useful for non-tech users to build something on the decentralized web where they can essentially show their work, show their identity. It's almost like building like a portfolio page or like your profile page, and like it'll
Dragged is the name of the project that they're working on, the website builder for Web3 project.
Yeah, it's dra.gd. And so that's how we sort of look at it. Like, even if we look at, like, if we have to sort of parlay how cryptos like crypto bear markets to, like, let's say normal like stock bear markets, like back in 2008 when the housing financial like crisis happened in America and like markets crashed, after that was like all the best startups were ever built in United States. And I think right now India is like ready for it. India has like beautiful set of like, you know, people who are like ready to build good things. I think like it's a good time.
What do you feel over here, the vibes over here? Because if we're talking about this mindset, like what did you think about while talking to other people and everything? How are they like thinking about this ecosystem, you feel?
So I think I saw like a whole spectrum of people here. I saw people from, you know, college students. In fact, it starts with the 16-year-old who happens to be the biggest contributor to Super Team DAO. And it goes on to people who are like college students who are just, you know, learning this space, which takes me back to when I was in college a few years ago, where, you know, we were just exploring technology, all the way to people who are, you know, recently funded $60 million of funding. They're just walking around on the floor interacting with us, because there's very little gatekeeping in this space, I feel. And people are much more open to collaboration because the next big thing could come from anywhere. And it's good that people have that open mind, especially here. Yeah.
So let's talk about the product you're building, right? Dragged. Like, how did that start? Did that start here at the hackathon? No, I didn't think so. Right?
So we personally, I'm a game developer, and I've been building like client-side experiences for a long time. And this is something that it's a volume game, right? You want to have as many different experiences as possible, but at the same time, the actual task that you'll be doing, for example, in crypto, very often it's something like DeFi or like depositing some money. These things are repeatable. So we wanted to take the design part of this experience and kind of expedite that process. We have this one core philosophy that the way development is done today, you'd have a designer, you'd have a like engineer who then convert those designs, and you know, this is just an additional amount of work. Like, for example, someone would design it in Figma, then turn it into React, and then push it out. So our vision with Dragged initially was to build a Figma type editor that anyone can make, but it doesn't give you a design, it gives you a website outright. And this is built with React, which was the best technology for it at the time. Where we ended up seeing a lot of use for this space is in Web3, because in Web2 there are you know, old players. There are like whales like Wix and Webflow that, you know, they don't have any incentive to give you all of these features yet, but at the same time they have massive enterprise customers in Web2. So what we're hoping to do is make it easy for people to build their first app, build their first like front end without actually having to spend too much time on it, and become a part of the community faster, start contributing, you know, letting other people use their app, and ultimately also saving engineering effort and time.
So it started as a Web2 product.
Yeah.
So what makes it Web3 right now? Like, what is the?
So I'd say functionally, right, from the common person's eye, it's the same thing. You enter a website in your browser and it opens the page. But how this is happening, what's happening underneath is actually completely different. Today, most companies that raise money, the money goes to three companies: Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Where Google and Facebook do your advertising and Amazon does your compute, like where they provide the servers. And what technologies like IPFS and Solana, Ethereum let you do is, instead of a single large company that owns all the resources and everyone else on the planet paying them, it lets maybe 20-30% of the people provide the compute resources and get paid for that. Meanwhile, 20-30% want to actually use it to host something, they will pay for it. And this way, it's like, you know, we actually create a better circulation in the economy. We prevent centralization in Amazon's hands, for example. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. Anything you guys want to add? And after that, we'll move to Bangalore Degen Club. That's cool.
I think that's like it's primarily like meant to like save a lot of like engineering time. So what I would say is that usually you'd want to like quickly test your like hypothesis on like what is it that will connect with your audience, and you'd rather much not want to like spend like engineering resources on that. It's much easier to like have like a designer whip out like 15 iterations of those, run ads on them, get a feel of what it is that connects with your audience, post which it's a lot easier to like know that what has stuck, the hypothesis that has stuck. You can then like think about like investing more like engineering resources into it.
I think an easy way to sum it up would be to make Web3 less intimidating to non-tech folks. So simplify it for them, where it would be like anybody with like a phone or a laptop and who has like decent sort of like design skills or a vision of what they want to see on screen can get a decentralized website.
I also like this whole positioning of it being more adding utility to your .ens domains or .sol, which I think everybody will vibe with.
I actually want to mention that .ens is the best-selling NFT of all time, and also probably the most useless today. And that's exactly where we want to justify everyone who's bought it, allowing them to attach resources to it and actually build the website decentralized domain system that they envisioned when they first bought the NFT, right? That vision is still unfulfilled. So
tell me about Bangalore Degen Club. Who wants to take that out?
Okay, so Bangalore Degen.
You guys all part of that?
Yeah, so Bangalore Degen Social Club actually came out from our weekend drinking sessions where we ended up making major bills, and we take turns, right? He'd pay 1 week, I'd pay 1 week, he'd pay 1 week, other friends would do it. And we realized we were kind of building like a DAO type of structure. And
with your drinking habits.
With our drinking habits, where we realized at some point if instead we could convince everyone to put in money in one shot into like a DAO kind of thing, we could come up with a beer token and pay ourselves to drink beer every weekend. We could like distribute it out to within the group. So
quite sophisticated. I did not expect it to get
But
this
it's
far.
sort of started out as a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke, but at the same time it's what we do, right? And it's actually a very interesting way to organize how we spend that time. Yeah, and also make it open to more people who want to join.
So there are things like dinner DAO, pizza DAO, and all of these with just like a single mission to have dinner together, things like that. So this sounds something similar.
More adventurous also.
A little bit more degen.
Tell me about the podcast you guys had. You guys had a very interesting concept for a podcast that you both were thinking about working on.
We love engineering. We particularly love to over-engineer just for the fun of it. There comes a time where you can stop because the business case is achieved, but we like to go further just to show that we can. And we found that a lot of people try to like learn from our experiences. Just being able to know that extra mile is probably what they needed in their like course of work. And we found that as long as we spoke about the different things that we did on a day-to-day, I hope that it adds like a certain amount of value to like other developers who are getting into the space. People who have maybe say used like one technology stack but aren't exactly sure like how do I merge this with that and make like an even better experience.
So what is the premise of the show for people who if nobody has heard of it?
I like to think of it as a horror show about engineering outages and ambitious like attempts to build things, right? Where sometimes there's no reason to build it, but we built it anyway. Sometimes it's something someone wanted, but we chose an outlandish way to build it because we believe it has more long-term benefit that way.
You mentioned over-engineering earlier. So voluntary over-engineering.
Voluntary over-engineering, yeah. I think that's the engineering mindset, right? It's not just about accomplishing the goal, but also the best, most efficient way to do it. Yeah.
So what's the deal? So you both discuss these kind of deep, unrealistic engineering solutions by yourselves?
So it kind of happens pretty organically, right? Like I'll probably take the train on something like what I think is going to be like a pretty good idea, and then
I'll have an example in mind. So we can
so Edith. So it's this infrastructure management platform. Basically, it lets you like spin up like pods, containers, like Kubernetes, and the minute we've had that and it's reached a certain point, we'll like realize that like, hey, this is like overly complicated for no reason, and he'll be like, no, we can't do this much. Let's like try to bring it down a little bit. And the thing is, after you've over-engineered it, when you bring it down, that's when it actually adds value to someone, because now it's actually something that they'd be able to interface with their life. And pretty much that, but in like both like front end, back end, we'll like build something overly out and then realize, hey, this is probably not going to be that useful, but maybe this one layer that dude wanted it, so we'll take it out, put it in the package thing and like call it a day. And it kind of goes organically from there.
I can actually tell you why we call Edith over-engineered. Okay, he won't because he built it, but I'm on the other side of this. Where initially we were doing.
I'm not aware of what Edith is.
I'm about to tell you. So we had problems where like we wanted to do one thing like upsize an image. Like we had a small image, we wanted to make it bigger. Or for example, for our drag product, we have a site that we wanted to build on a backend. And there's just thousands of small tasks that you need a backend for, like another computer for, to do it online or on some other service. So what we started doing is creating small reusable jobs for every single thing we can think of. And at this point, Edith is a backend server that has thousands of functionalities, like pretty much anything: image resizing, AI, ML, data processing, but none of them are running most of the time. But if we ever need it, it's just a click away.
That's Tripsitter, by the way. Yeah, so the other like co-host for like Edith is this thing called Tripsitter. So Edith is more of a registry of everything that can happen. Tripsitter decides which one will. And like kind of they both work together in order to form, like, say you want to quickly scrape like entire stock markets data for today. That's just going to be one call to Tripsitter, which will then sanction those jobs on Edith, and then you will have that data in like a Slack channel, wherever you want to consume it in whatever format you want.
That sounds like an interesting premise for a show. You guys should just do it. Like, maybe you can start with like inside your Bangalore Degen Social Club Discord as a weekly chat or something like that, and then just record it as a Craigboard or something, and then publish, and then slowly decide on how you want to approach it.
In fact, I think we were overthinking the starting process a lot, and doing this with you actually,
I think
it's so natural,
like,
right?
It's a leap of faith.
It's a leap of
go
faith.
for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
True. I think it is all. Exactly. Otherwise, it's just gonna sit on your mind. Just have these conversations. Nowadays, I try to have more of them live, even on my channel, just to avoid a lot of the planning and editing and all that. Right. So, yeah.
And I think the quality of these conversations turns out great. Like we were worried, like, hey, we need to prepare, but no, man, it's casual and it's genuine. I think it's awesome.
Awesome, I loved it. You guys wanna tell your Twitter so people can find you guys?
It's Prajwal Vipra, PRAJWL VIPRA.
I'm Pranth, PRNTH_.
Ends with
Yeah, I'm Thor's adopted bro, which translates to Loki. Yeah.
okay.
They call me Loki.com, also works.
Alright, thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Follow these guys, and Salman needs a job.